Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. It is time to update one of my absolute favorite projects. This is Pan Those Eyeshadows. This is a project that has been going for years and years on YouTube. It was originally created by Alexi, obviously quite a long time ago, and she unfortunately isn't posting anymore, but I will still have her link down below. This project basically consists of eyeshadows and your main goal is to pan on them. You can of course have some other goals. You can have usage goals and stuff like that. And I, for example, in my project have a 20 use threshold. So if I don't hit pan within the 20 uses, I am allowed to roll something out. So that is basically how I'm structuring my own project. I am working on 4 eyeshadows and I am currently following the prompts of Laney. So Makeup with Laney did create some prompts. She isn't posting either anymore, unfortunately, but she created some prompts and that's what I'm working off of. So whenever I need to roll in a new eyeshadow, I roll a prompt and I select an eyeshadow that matches that prompt. So that is basically the introduction on how I do my projects. So I'm going to jump into the eyeshadows themselves and what I've been working on. But before I do that, if you're new here, please consider subscribing. I would absolutely love to have you in the family. Let's jump into the video. So I always start off with the eyeshadow that's been in the longest, and we have one eyeshadow that has been in now for 2 months. The rest I rolled in last update. And the eyeshadow that I have comes from the Red Dragon palette from Odin's Eye in collaboration with Judy. So I've been working on the Shadow of Dragon, which is this one right here, and I rolled this one in for the prompt a matte red, so matte red eyeshadow. And this is definitely a true type of red. If anything, it leaves a little bit more orangey, but it's definitely a very vibrant, really fun red color. In the first month I was working on this one, I reached for it 5 times, and this is what it looked like at that point. So this is last month. I definitely had a little bit of a dip going, and I was focusing at the top of the pan, and yeah, just kind of working on the shadow that way. And I did find this past month that I could use this one as a blush actually, so I have alternated this one on my eyes and as a blush, and this is what the eyeshadow looks like today. We do have again a little bit of a dip. I don't know if the dip has gotten that much deeper just because of how I've been using it, but I'm happy to say that I have reached my 20 use goal on this one, so it will be rolling out of the project. So we have the palette right here, and that is the shadow again. There is definitely a dip going, and hopefully you can see that right there. And I, like I said, have reached for this one 15 additional times to hit my usage goal. How I've been using this one is mainly how I'm wearing it today actually. So I've been doing this look, the one I'm wearing today, for the last couple of days. I think I've done it 4 times now back to back. And that's how I've been using a lot of my eyeshadows. So I'm reaching for 3 out of my 4 eyeshadows in this look, and I will cover them as I go through them. But I am wearing this shadow right here, which again is Dragon. I'm wearing that one kind of to blend out the other corner. So I'm wearing Mulberry from my Panda palette at the very outer corner. That's from Anastasia. And then I'm blending this out, that shadow out with the red, and that kind of just makes it a little bit more wearable and not as bright and vibrant. And then I used like a cat neutral transition shade in the crease. But yeah, that is how I've been using it. So I am wearing it like that today, and of course I do get 1 use out of that every time I use it. And on top of that, I have also been using it as a blush, and that's also how I'm wearing it today. I'm wearing it for the last 2 times today. I made sure to, you know, wear it in this look so I could show you what I've been doing. But yeah, that's how I'm using it. So that means I've gotten 2 uses of this shadow for the last, like every look for the last couple of days. And like I said, I've done this look now 4 times I believe, so that's 8 uses just alone from this look. And then I think I have reached for it twice on my cheeks on top of that, and then 5 times in different looks that isn't like this one. So that's how I've been using it, and I am happy that this one is rolling out. It would have been nice to pan it, of course. I do think I could have. If I didn't use it as a blush, I definitely think I could have hit pan on this shadow, but it's just not what I've been feeling when it comes to crease shades or shades to wear on my eyes. So I'm happy that I found a way to use this one that wasn't just necessarily as a really bright, vibrant crease shade or, you know, lid shade or something like that. And using it as a blush might be a little bit of cop out, but it meant that I was able to roll this one out this month, because if I didn't reach for it on my cheeks, I would have definitely taken at least 1 more month to roll this one out. So that is this shadow right here, and of course we will be replacing this at the end of the video. Then, like I said, the last 3 shadows, or the remaining shadows really, were all rolled in last update. So I've only worked for them for 1 month. And the first shadow that I rolled in for the prompt reminds you of spring, and I went with this shadow right here, which is called Very Peri, and it is from the Pastel Roses. So it's basically like a purpley periwinkle type of purple with a gold to green shift. It is definitely like an Easter spring type of shadow. Definitely that purple shift and that gold shift both reminds me of spring, which is why I decided to go with this one. It's also one that I've had in my Focus 15 for my year of usage project plan, so I was already working on it, but it's been fun to incorporate in this project as well. And of course I am prioritizing this shadow now because I rolled it into this project. And this is what the shadow looks like now. I have reached for this one 6 times in the past month, so definitely nowhere near my 20 uses. And I do have a little bit of a dip going, but I still have a long way away to pan. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to hit pan on this one within the 20 uses. It is definitely a shadow that I can reach for all of my lid, which means that I use more of this shadow compared to some other shadows that I have. I've had the shade Little Star in from Pastel Roses before, and I wasn't able to hit pan on that one within the 20 uses, but I mainly used that one as an corner highlight. So yeah, we'll see how it goes, but that is the shadow now. You can definitely see that dip there, but I do have a long way to go, so that is that shadow, and it is staying in. I haven't been reaching with this one as much recently because I've been doing this kind of red tone look, and this is the one shadow in my kind of, you know, quad that I haven't been like using in this look. So I will definitely try to make this my main focus moving forward for like the next coming days, just because I put so much effort into these like red orangey tones, and I feel like switching up and doing more purple looks is definitely going to be fun. Again, you sort of don't get bored on these warm tones. So I think for like the next week or so, you're probably gonna get to see a lot of purple looks and wear a lot of use with this shadow. So we'll see how far I can get with it next month. Maybe I can hit my 20 use gold, maybe I can hit pan even. We'll just have to see. Then if that kind of red prompt wasn't enough, I actually rolled in 2 more color prompts, and they're both very warm toned shadows. And the first out of those 2 prompts was the prompt orange shimmer shadow, and I decided to go with this one right here, which comes from Natasha Denona My Dream palette, and it's the shade Invention. So this is definitely like a very rusty orangey kind of shade. It's very sparkly. It's the kind of most sparkly formula from Natasha Denona, which has been fun, and definitely a formula that I prefer. I don't really like those like typical satiny type of shimmers that are common in most mainstream palettes anymore. So this has definitely been one that I've been incorporating a bit more easily. And it's also a shadow that's been working really nicely with that red shade, and in the past month I reached for it 7 times, and this is what it looks like today. So there is a little bit of a dip going. I am definitely happy with how this one is looking. I do think this is a shadow that I should be able to pan on within those 20 uses. I really do think I can, because again, it is a little bit more of a chunkier shimmer, which means that you use a little bit more product every time you use it. So we'll see how long it takes. I think it will definitely take up towards the 20 uses, but I will really try to aim for pan with this shadow. So we have that shadow right there. I'm trying to cover up the other shadow that is in this project, which is right down here, and I will talk about that in a second. But you have obviously seen the close-up already. It is originally from a palette, of course, but I keep it in this little kind of mini palette just for easier use in the everyday, and that is a swatch of it as well. So again, it has gone really nicely with that red, and it's a really fun kind of rusty orangey red color. And again, I am wearing this one today. It's been in that kind of look that I've been doing recently, and the way I've been reaching for it is under my, like on my lower lash line, and again, that's how I'm wearing it today. But I've also reached for it on my lids, and again, I think the 4 uses for this look that I'm doing are like I have today, but then the other 3 I have reached for it on my lids, and it does work really nicely that way too. And with this one, we'll see if I can hit my pan on this next month. I still have, you know, quite a long way I think to go, but I might be able to do it. It just depends on how I'm going to feel these kind of like warm toned reddish looks, because it's not my everyday type of look. But rolling out that red, I might be able to pair it with more kind of neutrals, and maybe I'll feel more inclined to reach for it. We'll see. But it is of course staying in the project. And then the last shadow that we have also is in this little quad, but it's also from a palette originally. It's from one of my Cleona palettes, and it's the Deep Sea Treasures palette. And the prompt that I rolled this one in for is actually red shimmer shadow. So again, sticking with the kind of warm toned colored theme, and also very matching to that red matte. It is the shade Ring of Fire, which you're looking at of course right now. It is a beautiful kind of red. It has like a pinkish red base, but then it has a really fiery reddish shift straight on, going into orange and a gold, and I think a green even at a very harsh angle. It is the perfect kind of eyeshadow to pair with the color that I had, and that's also kind of why I've been able to do a lot of looks with 3 of these shadows together, like the one I'm wearing today. And in the past month I reached for this one 6 times, and this is what the shadow looks like today. So there is definitely a little bit of where the Cleona emblem is gone from the shadow now, but it's definitely moving quite slowly. It is a very, very pigmented shadow, and I mainly use this one as the topper shadow, and it's also very packed in the pan, which means that it's moving slower. So now you can see this quad as it is, but that is what it looks like, the shadow right there, and then you also have that National shade. But again, 6 uses on this shadow, and it's definitely no dip at all, I would say, but there is a little bit of wear and tear, and again, the Cleona emblem is gone for the most part, so that means that of course there is some usage on it, and that is a swatch of it right there. It is a beautiful, beautiful shadow. I think you can see more of like that reddish, kind of pinky reddish shift straight on, but when I look at it, it looks very golden orangey going into green. And so it is of course a multi-chrome, and it's been very fun to reach for. And how I'm wearing it today is as like a topper shadow on top of my lid, and I'm wearing a shadow from my Pan palette, which is called Bombawi from Glam Shop, as a base for that shadow. And it's actually also multi-chrome, so it's been very fun to pair those together, and I think it creates this beautiful, you know, very rusty, warm, reddish orange type of lid. So that's what I've been doing, and I got a lot of use out of the shadow in this specific look. Alright, so this here is my color story, and of course we are rolling out that shade right there, and we're gonna replace it with something new. We'll see what I get. Hopefully I don't get more kind of reddish tones, because I am a little bit fed up with them, but if I do, at least I will go with those bottom shades. But I'm gonna pull up my wheel, and I'm gonna go ahead and pull in the prompt, and we'll see what I pick from there. Alright, so we have my phone right here and the prompt list, so I'm just going to go ahead and roll my prompt. And we got black shadow. I never skip prompts, but I think I'm going to skip this one, or I could roll in a shimmery black. No, I'm gonna skip it just because I have a black in my Pan palette and I barely reach for that one as is. And I don't want to double dip. I never skip prompts, but I am gonna skip this one. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna remark it so I can roll it again at a later point, but just not right now. It's gonna be too difficult with my Pan palette, because again, whenever I reach for black, I'm gonna reach for that shadow right there. So we are gonna roll again. Pan Graveyard. Okay, that's fun. So basically Pan Graveyard, what that means is that you pick something that you have tried to hit pan on in the past, but you failed, or like you didn't end up hitting pan, so you can roll it in and try to hit pan on it this time. So I'm gonna go and find something that I worked on in the past to try to hit pan on, or you know, yeah, just try to hit pan on but didn't. And we're just gonna have to see what I pick. It could be, I have a lot of options for that obviously, but I will pick my shadow, and once I'm back I will show you what I decide to go with. So I'm back, and I have decided to go with this shadow right here at the bottom. So there we have my old color story, and we have my new color story right there. Actually, I just realized something. I was gonna say I decided to go with a new shimmer, but I forgot that I have a rule in this project that I need to have at least one matte in at any point in time, and that is for shimmers. So that means that I'm gonna have to reevaluate, because I want to stick with my rule and I completely forgot that. So I'm gonna have to go and pick something else. What I decided to go with originally was my Tiny Marvels palette, and I decided to pick a shadow in here that I tried to pan on in my Pro Level Up, which was Fire Buds. But I'm gonna go ahead and pick something new, because we need to pick a matte shadow, which I did not anticipate. But yeah, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna try to fix something again, and hopefully I am successful this time. Okay, so I did decide to pick something finally, and we have it right here. So that is my new shadow again. That is now my new color story. That is the last one. So a bit more kind of neutral leaning, still warm tone, but neutral leaning. And the shadow I decided to go with is definitely a Pan Graveyard. And that is because I actually had pan on this shadow before. And it comes from this palette right here, which looks like a Subculture palette, but the shadow itself originally comes from the Jackie Aina palette. If you are unaware, I kind of franken my two Anastasia palette, the Jackie Aina and the Subculture palette together to create like a perfect palette for me. It's like a perfect autumnal palette, which is also a great time for me to work on this palette, to be honest, because this is just a perfect autumnal color story. And the shadow that I decided to go with was originally from the Jackie Aina palette, and it is this shadow at the end right here, and that is the shadow Ginger. It is in the spot of Access at the moment, but it is the shade Ginger. And as you can see, this one looks a little bit funky, and that is because when I was moving shadows over, I kind of took them out of the old packaging and put them in here. This shadow did end up shattering a little bit, not so that I had to like repress it fully, but I had to kind of pack it back in, and when doing that I completely covered up the pan, as you can see. So there is a dip, and there used to be a pan in there, but it got covered up. So I don't think it's gonna be like too difficult to pan on this one, so it's a little bit of a kind of give me product, but I do want to read pan on it, and I think it's a perfect shadow to work on for Pan Graveyard. So that shadow right there, which is again Ginger from the Anastasia Jackie Aina palette. I will have to decide what I'm gonna like call this one, if I'm gonna call it Access or not. But anyway, that is the shadow I'm gonna roll in, and I think that's gonna be a really fun one to work on. Of course, it is a neutral matte, so it does kind of interfere a little bit with my Panda palette, but I don't have anything in this tone. I think it is a good kind of middle ground between the really deep browns in my Panda palette and the transition shades that I've frankened. So hopefully I can get a lot of use out of it, and it can work really nicely with any of these shimmers, to be honest, but I feel like these three can do a really nice one look. I think it can work with that purple look as well for more kind of neutral type of look. I can wear that shimmer with that, but I think it's going to lean itself perfectly mainly with those two bottom shades, so I can kind of replace it for that red shade and make a new look similar to this, but it's going to end up being a little bit more neutral. So that is what I'm going to end up rolling in, and when it comes to next update, obviously this top shade is already rolled out, but I'm going to try to have out ideally 2 more shades. I might try to hit pan on the Natasha Denona shadow and then roll out one of the other 2 shimmers. Both of them I think are sitting at 6 uses. One of those 2 rolled out, and then this one rolled out potentially. Maybe I can hit pan on this one actually instead. But I will try to have at least 2 shadows rolled out by next month. That would be my goal. If I can do more than that, that would be of course incredible, but 2 minimum just to keep this project rolling. But I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up the video here. I hope you have enjoyed it. Let me know which shadows you think are gonna roll out next month. I actually don't know. I was gonna say, you know, one of these 2 shimmers and then sorry, one of these 2 shimmers and then this one pan, but this is probably going to be a giveaway product, so I might be able to pan on that one already. So just right now looking at them, maybe the 2 that I think is going to be like the Natasha Denona shimmer and the new one that I rolled in, but again we're just gonna have to see. So I hope you guys are having the best day, and I'll catch you in my next one. Bye guys.